Good morning, everybody. We have two parshiot that are really ending the Sefer Vayikra. The first one is Behar, the other one is Bechokotai. And of course, the shiur is going to be to Ilui Neshama of those who have been killed in Meron, and to the Refuah Shlema of all the quickly recovering from all the wounded, all the psuim. וידבר השם אל משה בהר סיני לאמור. And God talked to Moses in the Mount of Sinai, and he said, דבר בני ישראל, speak to the children of Israel and tell them, ואמרת אליהם, כי תבואו אל הארץ אשר אני נותן לכם, when you get to the land that I gave to you, ושבתה הארץ שבת להשם, and the land will strike to the God. Shabbat will have a Shabbos. Shabbos means like shvita, strike, don't do anything. And of course, the first question is, well, what does it mean? You come to the land, you didn't do anything yet, and you do Shabbat. What's the meaning of Shabbat? What's exactly the Torah trying to tell us? So the Torah comes on and tells us, for 6 years you're going to work. And in the 7th year, Shabbat Shabbaton, then it's going to be the Shabbos. Shabbat LaHashem, Sadra lo tizra, v'karmacha lo tizmor, and then you're not allowed to do anything. It's going to be Shabbat LaHashem. And okay, so if this is the case, if we try and understand what the Torah is trying to tell us, without reading the part, Daber bnei Yisrael matem ki tavo elav she'anotem lachem v'shavta aretz Shabbat LaHashem, I can go on and say, Shesh shanim tizra sadecha, and then the Torah is telling us, B'shana hashvit Shabbat Shabbaton. So, in other words, the first sentence that is talking about the Shavta Aretz Shabbat LaHashem, we don't need it. We understand the idea. And also, why do you put this before we're talking about working in the land? Because how do you do a strike? How do you cease of working if you didn't even start working? First, you tell us, like it's written in the continuance, 6 years you work, and then on the 7th year you have a Shabbat. Okay. But you tell us before you have a Shabbos? And then another interesting thing, what is Shabbat? When we talk about Shabbat, we have every week a Shabbat. And what is this Shabbat? Shabbat LaHashem. And exactly the same thing is written here, Shabbat LaHashem. The idea is very, very simple and very, let's say it's something that we have to think about, because that is a base of our being, the base of what are we doing here in this land. And this brings us to, this is all being Behar Sinai Le'emo. And from here, the Torah tries to teach us that all the details, because here we have a lot of details about the Shemitah year. And this Shemitah year is the Shabbat we're talking about. All the details are written here, and the Torah is telling us, Rashi, the explanation is that like we have all the details here from Har Sinai, from the Mount of Sinai. So all the other laws that we have are all from the Mount of Sinai. In other words, they were all given us in Matan Torah. They were all given us in 2 weeks' time, the time that we are preparing ourselves in Sfirat HaOmer to receive and to take the Torah from God. God is giving it to us, and we are going to receive the Torah. Chag Matan Torah, Chag HaShavuot. And this is all to tell us that all the laws that we receive from God, including the Torah Shebaal Peh, the oral Torah, they are all from God, from the Mount of Sinai. Now, the Mount of Sinai, why is it so important to us to talk about the Mount of Sinai? So there is another interesting thing that connects us to the first pasuk of the next parsha, which is Bechukotai. And the Torah is telling us that, if you will keep the laws of the Torah, then I give you the rain, and the land will give you the fruits, and everything is going to flourish, and all, like a whole list of unbelievable blessings. And if we look at it carefully, it's written very clearly, V'natna ha'aretz yevula. What Aretz? Aretz with Hey HaYediah, the land. Which land? Of course, the land of Israel, the Holy Land, Eretz Israel. So we got here the Mount of Sinai, and we got here the land of Israel, and we got here Matan Torah, and we got here Shabbat LaHashem. What is this whole idea? And here also something very interesting. If we keep the laws, so God is going to give us a reward here in this world. But we all know, our sages tell us again and again that in this world there is no reward. Sachar be'ai alma leika. There is no reward in this world. Only the next world there is a reward. So what is it talking about here? What is that here? It's very clear that if we keep the Torah, if we keep the mitzvot, we are going to get rewarded here in this world. And this brings us to understanding the connection between the Shabbat, the Mount of Sinai, and Eretz Israel, and keeping the mitzvot. And in other words, Matan Torah by Am Israel in Eretz Israel. And that's the idea. Because on the Mount of Sinai, it was very clear when Moshe Rabbeinu the first time, God reveals himself on the Mount of Sinai to Moshe Rabbeinu. He says, you're going to take out Am Israel from Egypt because they are going to get the Torah on this mountain, the Mount of Sinai. And what is the whole idea of taking out Am Israel from Mitzrayim, from Egypt, to take them to Eretz Israel? But before they go into Eretz Israel, which is the promised land, which is the land that is always mentioned to us and always promised to our ancestors, and nothing about the Torah, by the way. It's always, I'm going to give you the land. I'm going to give the land, Eretz Israel. And God is telling us everything, yes, you have to get to Eretz Israel. But why do you have to get to Eretz Israel? Because Eretz Israel is the Holy Land. Why is the Holy Land? Because there you're going to keep the Torah which you are getting in the Mount of Sinai. Now we understand why was particularly this mitzvah of Shemitah being the symbol of telling us that all the details and the small details are all from the Mount of Sinai, are all from God. Because this is talking about Eretz Israel. Shemitah is in Eretz Israel, in the Holy Land. And the only place where you can keep the Torah and get the reward is in Eretz Israel. The combination of Am Israel, Eretz Israel, and Torah. And the Torah, this is this unbelievable combination that makes us what we are. And this is how we make our life in this world worthy. And this is our mission, to connect the spirituality and the land of Israel, which is from one side a very, very materialistic thing, Adamah. This is earth, but we have to connect earth with God, with the spiritual, with the Shamayim. And this is our job. And how do we connect the spiritual side, the neshama with the body, the spiritual side with the land, with the Torah? So the Torah is telling us, you're getting the Torah on the Mount of Sinai in order to get to Eretz Israel. And when you get there, first thing you have to understand, Shabbat Lashem. Yes. The reason that you work, the reason that you do what you do, is in order to understand that everything is for God. You're not going to Eretz Israel to eat and drink, to enjoy life from the physical point of view. You are going to combine this unbelievable combination of the faith, of the emunah, of God, of the Torah with Eretz Israel. This is why we're here in this world. And this is why the Torah is telling us the first thing. When you come to Eretz Israel, then comes the explanation. Yes, there is a physical side, and you have to work with the physical side. Nevertheless, as we said, in the next parsha is being told, if we practice the mitzvahs, if we do the mitzvahs, we are going to get rewarded with all the physical things of this universe, with the land. And this is, again, 1 minute. What are we talking about? But if we connect the things, we understand. It's like high-tech company. And you see in the high-tech company, you have the people that work there, they enjoy and they have beautiful life. They have a restaurant. They have coffee machines everywhere, cold drinks, beverages. They have a gym. They have beautiful offices. They have gardens. They have whatever you can think, the best of the best. Is this a part of the salary that they receive, or it's nothing to do with the salary. And the truth is, it's not the salary. It is work conditions. In other words, the boss gives the workers, his employees, he gives them the best condition for what? What? What is the idea? The idea is you're going to sit and eat and drink and go to the gym, go to the swimming pool, enjoy and everything. And why are you here? To do the job. So in other words, all the things that you've got around you are really for you to do your job in the best way. So this is why your boss is giving you the best conditions. And this is exactly what God is telling us in Parashat Bechukotai. If you will keep the laws, I'm going to give you all the benefits, in other words, all the help that I can in order for you to do the job on the right and the best way. I will give you work conditions, the best of the best. But why? The idea is to keep the mitzvahs. But if you don't keep the mitzvahs, then there is another part of the parsha. If you don't, then we have all those unbelievable curses that we don't even want to talk about. In other words, this guy that works in this high-tech business, and he enjoys his life. Wow, it's beautiful. So he comes in the morning, goes and eats breakfast, then he has a coffee break, and then he goes to have a swim in the swimming pool, and then he's doing exercises in the gym, and then he's going for lunch, and then he's going for afternoon break, and then he's having dinner, and then what is with the job? So this guy goes around like this for a week, 2 weeks, then the boss calls him, says, Mr. Moishale, what's going on? Oh, you gave me this. Oh, yes, I've got beautiful life. He says, yes. But I gave you all those things for you to do the job. If you don't do the job, you are fired. That's what God is telling us. I gave you this land, Shabbat LaHashem. The idea is LaHashem, to God. Everything you do is for God. And in order to do this in the best way, I give you the best condition you can have. But use it wisely and understand that the idea is not eating and drinking and sleeping and enjoying life and buying new clothes and new cars and new homes. The idea is to use it to work out. It's nothing wrong with it. On the contrary, if you use it right, you will get even better. And I wish for all of us to get like the physical facilities in the best of the best, so we can worship God in the best way. And this is why the Torah is telling us about Shemitah. What is the whole idea of Shemitah? A Shemitah is like on Shabbat. On Shabbat, you don't work. You trust God that He's going to provide. Nevertheless, then comes a Shemitah, which is a whole year that you don't work. By the way, what do you do in this year? What do you have to do on Shabbos? So some people think, in Shabbos, what do you mean? You eat and drink and sleep. You eat and drink and sleep. You don't do any work, yes. But you have to go to Shul Tzedakah. And you have to sing the songs of Shabbos. You have to learn on Shabbos, because this is your time of the week to elevate yourself together with the Shabbos. And that's exactly the idea of this year. If somebody has got a field, he's got a pardes, he's got whatever it has. Now, in all the year is busy with his job. So God tells him, I'm going to give you 1 year that you're going to be a year Shabbat LaHashem for God. And then this guy sits and learns. And that's the idea of Shemitah year. And then there is Yovel. After 50 years, there are 2 years that you do nothing. Now, you know how difficult it is when you know that you have to work in order to provide your family. And then there is no job. So you are worried, what's going to happen? Who is going to give me food to eat? So those who keep Shemitah, Giborei Koach, they are the heroes of God. Because they show God the trust, the real trust, the trust to the highest level they can be. אני השם אלוקיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, לתת לכם את ארץ כנען להיות לכם אלוקים. I took you out of Egypt, and I gave you this land in order that you will make from this land the Holy Land, and I can be your God. I want to be your God. להיות לכם לאלוקים. Rashi says at that place, שכל הדר בארץ ישראל אני לא לאלוקים. We are privileged to live here in Eretz Israel. And those who don't, please come here. Because when you are here in Israel, says Rashi, כל היוצא ממנה כעובד עבודת אלילים. When somebody lives in Eretz Israel and leaves Eretz Israel, is like idol worshiper. And there is also a thing that says and tells us, כל הדר בחוץ לארץ כאילו דומה כאילו אין לו אלוה. If somebody lives in Chutz La'aretz abroad, not in Israel, it is like somebody who hasn't got a God. Of course, the idea is very deep, because sometimes in life you have to be there, but you have to understand that our mission is Eretz Israel. כי תבואו אל הארץ. That's what God wants us, to come to Eretz Israel. But if we here already, we have to understand why we're here. Because we are here to make this combination. And we have to show our trust in God. There is this story I read a few years ago. This, how it calls Lulyan. How do you say Lulyan in English? Lulyan? How do you say Lulyan? Lulyan. Interesting. A lulyan is somebody who does all those, I cannot find a word for it. There's a merry-go-round in the circles or whatever. I try to understand. Lulyan, let's try lulyan or say alulim. Let's see what's going to come out of this. Tumbler. Okay, a tumbler, a lulyan. And what's this famous lulyan, tumbler? And he was standing in front of the audience on a very thin string that was connecting two mountains, very long, and underneath it, how do you say, maybe 100 meters of depth, very deep. And it's got this pole that you hold in order to keep your weight, to balance. And he's asking all the audience, all the people, do you believe that I can do this? And all of them are shouting, yes! And then he throws the pole and is asking again, do you still think that I can do it? And here, when they saw he's throwing the pole, he's going to do it without this pole that balances him, the shout is even greater. Yes! Then he's telling them, do you think that I can do it with a chair? And everybody is really, they're getting so excited, and they shout so loud, yes! They're just waiting for this tumbler to do this magic, to go on this very thin string, or whatever you call it, and keep the balance and walk from side to side, which was quite long, and with this thing like very high in the sky, and without a pole, and with a chair, carrying a chair. Wow. Then, do you believe that I can do it with somebody sitting on the chair? Wow, they couldn't believe what this tumbler is saying. Yeah, yeah, I need a volunteer. No, what do you think? Did he have a volunteer? This is like to understand what level we have to get in order to trust God. Yes, it's very nice to say, oh, he's a believer, and talk about something else, or talk about belief. But if it gets to you, and you stand in front of something difficult, are you still a believer? Do you trust God to that level? Our God promises us, if we keep the mitzvahs here in Eretz Israel, He is going to give us the rain in time, and everything is going to flourish, and we're going to have all the best of the best condition. It's not a reward, and that's exactly the point. The reward is waiting for us in the next world. Here in this world, there is no reward, and we don't work for the reward. We work for the love of God. And this is why the Torah is telling us, if you keep the laws and the mitzvahs, I will give you all the physical conditions. Gishmechem, by the way, what is Gishmechem? Geshem, Gashmiut. This is materialistic. Geshem is Gashmiut, materialism. Gashmiut. And here I'm going to give you all the facilities, all the materialistic facilities in order for you to keep the mitzvahs, in order for you, for us, to do this combination of the soul and the body. And this is what is written in Parashat Behar. בערב בני ישראל אמרת להם כי תבואו אל הארץ אשר אני נותן לכם ושבתה הארץ שבת להשם. You have to understand. The first thing when you come to this world, the first thing that you understand when you come to Eretz Israel, you have to understand why, and it's Shabbat LaHashem. Yes, in order to get to Shabbat LaHashem, you have to work, yes. Because if you don't work, you don't use the facilities that God gave you in order to get to Shabbat LaHashem. Because Shabbat LaHashem means, that this is, by the way, the interesting point of Chag HaShavuot. In Chag HaShavuot, Chag Matan Torah, there is a whole discussion in the Gemara. It's written Shabbat Lachem. This is the Shavuot, Atzeret Lachem. That is written to you and for God, Atzeret LaHashem. So there's discussion: is it to God or is it for us? And the central idea is it's half-half. Half LaHashem, half to God, and half for us. What does it mean? There is a mitzvah in Shavuot to eat. A mitzvah to eat. And how do we explain the Sfirat HaOmer? What's the idea? We say it starts with Seorim, which is what animal eat, and it ends with Chitim, Shtei HaLechem, the sacrifice of the two breads that are made of wheat, that is of a human being food. In other words, we are building us. We are getting out of the beastly side to the human side, to be mensch. And this is the idea, the combination of the physical side and the spiritual side. The Shavta Aretz Shabbat LaHashem. And I will give you all the things you need in order to make it Shabbat LaHashem. So we have here the combination of Eretz Israel, the Torah, and Am Yisrael. And to take all this together, to receive the Torah and keep it here, keep it in the best way we can, and use the facilities that God is giving us in order to get closer to God. Yes, it's no problem to have good food, to have a nice home, to have all the best things of the physical world, of the materialistic world, as long as you understand that our mission is to put God in it, to connect it to God. That's why we're here, because otherwise we can stay in heaven. The whole idea of the Torah is for Am Yisrael to take it and combine it with Eretz Yisrael. Then it's Shabbat LaHashem. Then we do Shabbat LaHashem. All the best to all of us.